And today I have Dr. Yahshua. Now, every time Dr. Yahshua, she always come on with a lot of information. And today is not going to be an exception. For those of you who are not familiar with Dr. Yahshua, she's a writer, she's a lecturer, she's a hypnotist, she's a speed reader, and the dictionary is her favorite book. She also has a website, yahshua.com. And today she's going to be discussing the billions of dollars that are being made from black people body parts and their organs. Let me pull Dr. Bay up here. Dr. Yahshua, are you there?
Hi, Beverly. Yes, I am, sweetheart. How are you today?
Great, great. And I want to thank you for coming on again, and we appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me on, and thank all of your listeners for thinking it's worthwhile taking time out of their busy schedules to even hear anything that I have to say. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you good.
Okay, good.
Now,
before
today,
we start, go ahead.
Go ahead. You got to talk about the billions of dollars that are being made from black people body parts and organs and the melanin, and it's a lot going on in that industry.
Absolutely, absolutely. But before I begin, I need to say to all of the listening audience and communities and to anyone out there that considers himself a Yahshua fan, I am fully aware that there are approximately 100 people waiting on a response from me on Facebook. Let me say for the record, I do not Skype, Twitter, Tweet, MySpace, Yahoo Group, Boxby, AIM, or Facebook. I am simply not a part of any of those environments. I am not even officially signed up with YouTube. I can watch YouTube, but I cannot comment because I do not partake in any of those types of communities. I just want that said for the record because I do not want anyone out there but thinking for one moment that I am ignoring your waiting for me to be your Facebook friend or whatever the deal is. I'm simply not a member, even though if you put in Yahshua and Facebook, Facebook has this big lie out there that says, Yahshua is on Facebook. Please join Facebook if you want to be her friend. Yahshua is not on Facebook now, nor has she ever been. And I understand that people are waiting. I simply want them to know why they're not getting a response from me. I am not part of any of those types of communities. If you want to confer with me, you can contact me at 213-928-6155, or you can contact me through email at Yahshua, Y-A, F like Friday, another F like Friday, A, B like boy, E-Y, Yahshua at access, that's A, C like Charles, C like Charles, E, S like Sam, S like Sam, the number 4, that's Yahshua at access, the number 4, and the word less, L-E, S like Sam, .net. Or you can go to yahshua.com and send a question through the frequently asked questions section. That will come to me via email, and I can respond to you. If you sign my guest book, that will sit out there until I look at it, and I look at that thing every 3 to 6 months. So I just want people to know I am not ignoring you. I am just not a member. Okay. Thank you for letting me put in that little thing.
Okay.
What I want to talk about, let me give you first a major definition. We've all heard the term melanin, melatonin, but the definition of M-E-L, mel means dark, it means strong, it means great and numerous. It also means honey. Now, the reason it's important for people to know that the word mel means honey is because there's a word called honian, spelled H-O-N-I-A-N. And remember, vowels are removable, and interchangeable. The word honian means to abuse or revile. Now, there are people out there that revile us because of something that we have that they don't, and as such, they have chosen to abuse us regularly because they're jealous of what we have that they do not have. which, by the way, they had a few hundred years to officially acquire what we have. Meaning, while we were asleep and generously giving our genetic strands of CPA, also called DNA, to people through hybridizing, half-breeding. I hear static. Is that a feedback? I don't know if anyone else hears it or not. Is that coming from my end?
I don't hear it. If anybody hears it, could you please write to me in the chat room if you hear static? I'm not getting it on this end.
Okay, I just want to make sure that people can hear me because I'm hearing a static feedback. But while we were in our unconscious, unaware, unawake state of self-hatred to the point that we hated being melanin-rich so badly that we gave away our genetics, claiming to marry lighter, brighter, and whiter. We wanted prettier children with light skin and good hair, whatever that is. Our self-hatred has devolved to the point that melanin-rich people, and I mean youth, are spending $17,000, $18,000, $19,000 to go to European surgeons and allow them to cut into their eyeballs to get rid of the brown and give them eye implants, iris implants, to make their brown eyes blue and green. That's how bad things have gotten for my people. And I know that has something to do with a lot of the subliminals. But I'm saying all of that to say, while we were in this self-hatred mode, and believe me when I tell you, we are coming out of it now. Not as fast as I like, but faster than I think the enemy realizes. But when we were in that state, we were giving away our genetics. And while we were giving away our genetics, trying to have what we thought were prettier children, this was the opportunity for these people that have Honian revile and abuse for us to actually get grafted back into the melanin-rich family and become melanin-rich themselves. Meaning, if I am melanin-rich and I'm a sister and I get with you for whatever reason, because you raped me or because I'm trying to survive or whatever my reasoning is, be it male or female, and I'm having sexual relations with someone out of the race, and I am allowing myself, or as a male, I'm allowing you to have a child by me that would make your child melanin-rich, that is your opportunity to take that melanin-rich child, and as that child grows up, have them be aware that they need to go and reunite with someone else that's also melanin-rich so that their child comes out darker. And that child needs to get with someone melanin-rich so that that child comes out darker. If that had been what these invaders had done, by now they would be an official part of the melanin-rich family that had reacquired their own melanin officially. They would still have their bloodline genetics, and they would still have their family name, but they would have the melanin richness that makes them one with nature. You know what I'm trying to say? But instead, somehow we have it all bass-backward, and we're losing our melanin. Instead of these people becoming darker, our people have become lighter. We've lost it. We've gone nuts. But let me also say that there's a word called meliorate, and the reason I'm giving you the definition, because I always try to start out with words and definitions. The reason I'm giving you definitions is because it all starts with words for me, as you announced. M-E-L is the same as M-E-R. Vowels are removable and interchangeable because L and R are one and the same letter. Technically, they are the same, and they can be interchanged. So M-E-L is the same as M-E-R. And if you drop the E, you have M-L, which makes it M-R. M-R goes back to more, and for me, that goes back to melanin richness, M-R, melanin rich. Now, the individuals that don't comprehend this, that the word male also means, like I said, it means dark, strong, great, numerous. It means honey. It also means mana and darkish. And back in the day, I told people that mana means supernatural force and power. You comprehend? I'm saying all this because I want my people to understand something. The word melon, like a watermelon, melon, one of the definitions of melon is grapevine. A melon is a grapevine or a branch. That's what they're talking about when they, in your so-called Christian Holy Bible, about getting grafted back into the true vine and becoming part of the real branch of reality. But our people want to live in this fake illusion with these people that want to stay stuck in their fake illusion. And the only reason they're trying to stay in that illusion, those so-called would-be elites at the so-called top that are misruling the whole globe because they are inbred Nazis that cannot see, that have gone around the world and stolen everyone else's identity, they've stolen everyone else's resources, and they've basically traded places with many people all over the globe. These individuals are misruling everybody because they are no longer sane. They have no more sanity. They are not sane. They inbred too far, and they are not sane. Now, what we need to understand is there is something called CJD, and that's an abbreviation for Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. Now, this is a disease that is called a prion disease, and prion basically means that it is a protein disease. Now, I don't know why they don't just come out and call a spade, because when I hear prion disease and I look into it, all I hear is worms and parasites. That's what it looks like to me. Now, this particular disease, you can tell when you have it because you wind up with things like dementia, memory loss, hallucinations, personality changes, speech impairments, poor balance, seizures, and your whole stride and the gait, the way you move and walk begins to change. Now, they call the so-called human form CJD, or Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, but you will know this disease best as mad cow disease. In cows, which are by nature vegetarians, it is caused by feeding cows other dead cows and make them cannibals, which is something that is not them by nature. Cannibalism is also one of the ways to cause CJD in human beings, and melanin-rich people are not cannibalistic by nature. Despite what they tell you about how we were cannibals when they found us, that is not true. Go back on what you know about the lush terrain that the Europeans found us on when they found us here, okay? Like Christopher Columbus himself said, I have never seen so much non-human meat in all my life as I found in the Americas, meaning there was so much of everything that one would require in a massive abundance, and the fact is the world is still overly abundant today. There is more than enough of every single thing required for every single individual on this earth. The reason we have these so-called would-be claimed shortages is because these inbred Nazis that cannot see past their inbred genetics want to claim ownership of everything. We own all of these trees here, and we own all of the oranges, and we own all of the oceans, and oh, by the way, we own the raindrops, and we own the sunlight, and if they could figure out how to make you pay for it, they would. So I'm saying that to say, Mother Nature is abundant in everything, and there is no shortage. But when people inbreed to the point of some false believed superiority over people that they are inferior to because they're recessive, we're dominant, so we're not inferior to anyone. But because you've touted yourself into this make-believe status of superiority, and you've made everyone melanin-rich think that they're inferior to the point that they're changing their eye color and changing their skin color and bleaching themselves into non-existence, then you've created a bass-backward globe that is headed for destruction unless melanin-rich people wake up. Now, one of the things that these people are doing, when people are dying and the loved ones of dead relatives go to funeral homes and the like, and they pay mortuaries and morticians and funeral sites and whatever for burials of their people. And they go to the church for a funeral, and they go down the aisle. At some point, it's like, come down and view the body. Everybody will go down and view the body and walk past the casket and go either leave or sit back down or whatever the deal is. What we're not aware of, and this is the case even when you're doing cremations, they still have you go through this nonsense even when you go through cremations. those of you that have experienced the death of a loved one, you should remember that they had, if you saw any portions of their body, their eyeballs were sewn shut. Frequently, they had stitches up the back of their skull. Frequently, they had stitches down the center of their torso. That is because there is a multi-billion-dollar industry in dead body organs, dead body parts, and the like. And it is not only melanin-rich people that are being robbed. All kinds of people, including would-be Europeans, are being robbed. The only point that I'm making is this multi-billion-dollar industry is such, but our body parts have a tendency to be worth more than other people's body parts. Even though they will try to tell you it doesn't matter what the race of a person is. Once you get below the skin, we're all the same. Well, I don't know about you, but the last time I heard any European saying that was like never, that we're all the same. The only people that seem to buy into the whole we're all the same license is melanin-rich people. But what they've actually done is they go in to these dead bodies. You are at a funeral not realizing that the corneas of your loved ones have been stole and sold. If your people died in the hospital, within 24 hours of death is when your person's body organs are worth the most. Things like hearts and whatever. A lot of these parts are extracted from your loved ones without your knowledge. Now, you have a death in the family. You are grieving. You're not going to stand there and say, can you please take everything off? Open this person up. I want to see if the penis is missing. I'd like to know if the heart is missing. You're really not going to go there. But frequently, they have stolen the phallus or penis off of brothers. They have stolen the Achilles heels off of people. They have actually removed the bones from people, and you're at the funeral looking down in a coffin at someone who the inside of their body is plastic PVC pipe because these fools have stolen the damn bones. The average individual doesn't know that these people are doing that, not to mention the fact that you're paying these people for burial to do this. So they're making money on you for paying. Then when they sell the body, now they report, right, and espouse that a human body or the body of man, a dead being, is worth $6,000 on the low end and $250,000 on the high end. And they're taking everything from the skin to the ligaments to the tendons to the Achilles heel to the kneecaps to the shoulder to the elbow to the fingers to the eyeballs and the corneas. They're taking brains. I mean, they're taking everything they can get. And it's so bad that when you even pay for a cremation, because a lot of people, when people die, the average individual is not prepared. They're not ready. They don't have the Federal Reserve notes or financing or funding to handle these very expensive funerals. Oh, well, a pine box will cost this. If you want something other than a pine box, it's going to cost that. And if you want to put a skirt around it, it's going to cost this. Before you know it, you're talking thousands of dollars, which a lot of our people don't have, especially if they have not established pre-need insurance or any of these other things to set up just in case. So they say, well, how much is cremation? Well, that's considerably cheaper. Instead of, double-digit thousands, that's going to cost you $3,000 or $5,000. And you may get lucky and find some place that will charge you $500 or $600. Now, what you do not know oftentimes is that when you get back the cremated body parts, or not body parts, the cremated ashes of your loved ones that have crossed over and made their transition, frequently the ashes that you are given are not even the ashes of the individual that you paid to have cremated. Oftentimes, you paid for a cremation, and these people have taken your loved one's body parts and dismembered and dismantled your loved one's body and sold everything in this market. And the Israelis that's one of their biggest businesses over in Israel, body parts. That's why the Israelis were one of the first people over in Haiti stealing body parts. They were outright murdering people for body parts. Just like in Katrina, people were being outright assassinated for body parts. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is you get this bag of ashes or urn of ashes, A lot of times it is the body parts of leftover people whose body parts they have stole and sold, and what was remaining that they didn't want to use, that they burned, and they give this to you and go, hey, here's your loved one. And it's not your loved one at all. Or it's some dead animal. And I have to thank one of my sea stars, for sharing, Lady Key, she shared this information with me back in the day. And I knew about it, but I had no idea that it was that bad. I mean, it is to the point that they've gone from robbing graves to robbing people right out of these mortuary homes and whatever to actually murdering people for body parts. This is one of the reasons, I am sure, that they have started closing down emergency room trauma centers inside the inner city of the so-called hoods, because they know that brothers are going to get knifed, shot, and the whole nine. And it's like back in the 1800s, the early 1900s, where you try to go to an emergency room, it's like, oh, we don't treat coloreds. So you go to the next hospital, we're sorry, we don't treat colored. You go to another hospital, we're sorry, we don't treat niggers. Whatever the hell it is they're telling you these days. And by the time you finally get to a hospital that will actually treat a melanin-rich individual, well, shoot, your people are already dead. That's the case with closing down emergency room trauma centers in the hood. At least that's what they've done in the Los Angeles, California area. They have closed down every single emergency room trauma center inside the hood. Why? Because melanin-rich beings have something that people really, really need. Yes, they're stealing body parts from Europeans also, who need to know that they're after your butt too. These inbreeds don't give a rat's butt about you either. But when you're melanin-rich, young and or male, you are worth more to them dead than alive. This is one of the reasons why they have officially tagged all gang bangers as domestic terrorists. This is one of the reasons why they are starting to officially tag Moorish Americans, which they call African Americans with a sovereign citizen ideology, as domestic terrorist threats. Because just like the people at Guantanamo Bay, according to the Patriot Act, once you have been classified a terrorist, you are no longer entitled to any type of right or remedy, meaning you can be incarcerated without being told why. You are not allowed to have a phone call if they don't want to give you one. You're not entitled to one. You are not entitled to a speedy trial. You are not entitled to confer with an attorney. Your relatives can wonder where you are. They can call the hospitals. Have you admitted the body of, or anybody that sisters could know? You can contact the coroner's office. Have you admitted anybody? Have you got any dead bodies? I'm looking for someone. No. You can call the jails. Have you arrested anybody? No. And they may know full well that they've arrested your being. But they're not required to tell you if this being falls under the category of terrorist. And why is that? Because if no one knows where you are, then no one knows what is happening to you. Now, I don't know how many people have become aware of the fact that nowadays, when you're incarcerated, and God forbid you're someone that nobody writes to you, nobody sends you money, nobody visits you, no one sends you care packages, you're just out there and you look like you don't matter to anybody anywhere. They can transfer you all around the United States. Never mind the fact that you were arrested in California, you can wind up in a prison all the way in Pennsylvania. Nobody knows where you are. There are instances where your relatives do know where you are, but they can't come see you because they're having a hard time getting to you when you're local. They certainly can't get to you if these people deport you or relocate you out of state. And it has gotten to the point, I don't know about other states, but in California, the Nazi German Heil Hitler fan, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and that's what I call him, a Schwarzenegger, Arnold Schwarzenegger had the nerve to make it okay because, according to him, the overcrowding has, and not only him, I think there are a couple of other states that have made it perfectly okay to start deporting United States inmates across the border to South America and Mexico. Well, hell, how long is it going to take before you decide you want to send us overseas to Germany or anywhere else because you need body parts and things like that? You understand what I'm saying? Let me tell you why our melanin richness gives us an edge over everybody else's body. Europe is so bad that it was determined by the United States FDA and by the Red Cross, and this is the Red Cross in many countries, that if you had spent 3 months or more or 6 months in certain European countries, and I'm talking about the UK, Britain, France, Ireland, Scotland. These are supposed to be the to-do big titty places, big city places of Europe. If you were in those places between 1980 and 1996 for over 3 months or 6 months, nobody wanted your blood. You were not allowed to donate blood. Well, guess what? They know for a fact that most melanin-rich people that currently are called black, Negro, colored, African American in the United States have not been to those places. So your blood is still in high demand. They have no idea where their Europeans are going and where they're coming from. And what's wrong with the blood over there? I think it goes back to what I have been telling people forever, which makes some people go, you know, Yaffa, you sound like a racist. Yaffa is not a racist. Yaffa is a realist and a researcher. You're talking about a people that are zoophiles by nature, mostly because of excessive inbreeding, meaning they think it's perfectly okay, and a lot of our people have become crazy like them, to have sex with goats, dogs, horses. That's not normal. They think it's perfectly acceptable to have sex with 3-day-old, 3-week-old, 3-month-old babies, 3-year-old babies. That's not normal. They think it's perfectly acceptable to eat doo-doo. They are into coprophilia. That is not normal, and that is not the melanin-rich culture by nature, even though integration was one of the best things that ever happened to Europeans and one of the worst things that ever happened to melanin-rich people, particularly in the United States, because being exposed to us helped to civilize them and cause them to behave better. Being exposed to them through integration caused us to lose our mind and start to behave worse, meaning now we have far more people than ever that participate in child molestation, sex with animals, coprophiliac, sodomistic behaviors, and things that are not us by nature. Before I proceed, does anybody want to interject here? Because I know I'm going 9,000. I'm nonstop 9,000 here.
No, I mean, it's interesting. What I can do is I can open up the lines and let a couple of people ask some questions.
Well, I just didn't know if anybody had made a comment out in the chat room that you wanted to ask before I keep going.
No, you can go. No, everybody's listening.
So nobody's raising their hands, not just yet.
Not yet.
Okay. Well, let me tell you this. There's a reason why. And, you know, most people weren't even aware that this was going on until Michael Jackson died. People are not aware that they're doing this to everybody. But remember, there was this big to-do about how they took Michael Jackson's brain and were holding on to his brain. The fact is, when it comes to melanin-rich people, they're taking all our brains as we're dying. One, they need the pituitary gland. Now, the pituitary gland is what secretes human growth hormone. And human growth hormone is all about your youth. Human growth hormone is secreted for the maintaining of youth and longevity. It's all about enhancing performance. It is an anti-aging, anti-wrinkle, sexual vitality enhancer. And it is generated naturally by the pituitary gland during the first hours of sleep and after exercise. But they started creating, or so they say, they claim they started creating lab-created human growth hormone, but what they didn't let out was the only way they could come up with it was by taking pituitary glands out of dead cadaver corpses. Now, Who do they always say has the most beautiful skin? Who do they say ages so well? Melanin-rich skin is supposed to wrinkle less than paler skin and supposed to maintain its youthful elasticity and youthful appearance well beyond other people's complexion. So whose human growth hormone would you want? Whatever has been established as the superior stock, that's what you want. You understand? Now, at some point, they claimed that they stopped extracting human growth hormone from dead cadavers because of the CJD, or mad cow disease, that it was causing in the people that were taking these human growth hormone injections from these dead cadavers. However, after their so-called mastery of genetic manipulation, so they say, where they could actually create, what's the word I'm looking for lack of a better word, manufactured human growth hormones, they've determined that 100% natural human growth hormone is still superior to synthetic, that's the word I'm looking for, to synthetic human growth hormones. So now they're getting back into the whole human growth hormone taken from pituitary glands. Well, one of the things that the human growth hormone does, it also helps secrete melanin. Now, the pineal secretes the melatonin, which causes the secretion of melanin. Now, melanin is a mood enhancer. It helps keep people level and calm and content and serene, amongst many other things that it does. That is one of the reasons why, although melanin-rich people catch hell all over the globe, for the most part, we're still a relatively laid-back, calm, and contented type of people, because melanin is one of the most superior anti-stress, antidepressant on the globe. So what they found out is that a lot of athletes have started taking human growth hormone because it increases muscle size, it increases muscle strength, and it's a performance enhancer. And I guess that's another word for, what is the stuff that a lot of these athletes are accused of using when they say, you know,
steroids. Is it steroids?
What's it called? Steroids. I'm starting to wonder if steroids is some buzzword for human growth hormone acquired from cadavers. You see what I'm saying? So when it comes to a melanin-rich brain, they can get the human growth hormone from the pituitary gland and the melatonin and melanin from the pineal, because there's a thing out now called Melanotan. Everybody write this down. It's spelled Melanotan, Melanotan, but it's pronounced Melanotan. It's also called liquid sun and some other things like this. Now, it has not yet been approved by the FDA. It is currently still under experimentation, and it is being tested and trialed on Europeans in New Zealand, Australia, and Arizona. That is where they are testing Melanotan. Now, it is being sold in the UK. You can buy it, you can order it online, and it has to be injected via a needle into your abdominal region. Now, they say that this is synthetic melanin, and I submit to you that they are freaking lying. One, melanin is such a chaotic thing that they have already acknowledged that they're not even sure what the composition of melanin is. They acknowledge that they know what is in melanin. You know, melanin contains this, it contains that, it contains this. But they have not been able to determine what percentage of this or that or the other is in melanin. You understand? So if you haven't even been able to narrow down just what the chemical composition of melanin is, how in the heck are you able to create it synthetically? And if you have been able to manufacture it some kind of way, I submit to you that they're utilizing real melanin to make synthetic melanin. And where are they getting all this real melanin from? Things like the Katrina thing, where they allowed people deliberately to die, where they outright, Blackwater outright murdered people, and a congresswoman let that out, that melanin-rich young males in New Orleans were being murdered execution style during the Katrina event after the blowing of the levees. Okay? Now, that is also probably what's going on in Haiti, probably what's going on in many places in Africa where they're letting people starve. And I'm going to go back to what I said earlier about how they keep saying that we're cannibals. We're not cannibals because, honestly, you know how they show these care commercials and please feed the homeless and feed the hungry, and they show you these starving people in Africa with these distended bellies and flies landing all over the starving mother and her starving children. If we were cannibals, there'd be no starving children with their starving mothers, because they would be eating the children, because that's what Europeans did. When they start starving, they start eating the people and the children. That's them by nature. Let yourself get locked up somewhere on some shipwreck. You take some kind of cruise and you get shipwrecked on some island, or go hiking somewhere in the snow at some high elevation and get stranded somewhere with Europeans, and see how fast they start looking at you like your Thanksgiving dinner, which is one of the places that Thanksgiving came from, the carving of the Turks or melanin-rich people that they were carving and eating over there in Spain in the public square. So I'm saying this to say, melanin-rich people cannot be the cannibals that you say we are, because if we were, you would not have these starving children laying there with their starving parents. There'd be none. However, I digress. Now, what I want my people to comprehend is there is no, I can't even think of what it is. Let me just go back. When they say that our people are cannibals, that's a misnomer, that's an untruth. There was no reason why we had to be. If you did, in fact, encounter melanin-rich people that were into cannibalism, I submit to you, and I'm willing to swear on my dead mother. And I probably shouldn't go there, but I am willing to swear on dead relatives that if you found melanin-rich people that were into cannibalism, those individuals had practiced inbreeding and incest too long, to the point that they had snapped and lost their sanity also, which is who is currently misruling the world now, a bunch of inbred, incested out people that have lost their color and lost their minds. And they don't care about anybody. They don't care about anybody. What we need to understand is every big to-do organization that has any level of status is all about acquiring what they can from us and keeping us down. And that includes your Greek sororities and fraternities, Harvard, Yale, MIT, the Smithsonian Institutes, Rhodes and the Rhodes Scholars, the Rockefeller Foundation, abortion clinics, Loyola Marymount, all of these people and these inbred Nazis of the so-called would-be elite that have no sanity left are all about keeping melanin-rich people down, because they're jealous about what they lost and did not want to go through the necessary steps of getting back.
Now, there is a question in the chat room. Someone wants to know, is there a connection between eugenics and what you are talking about? And are they, let's see if I can find, and they want to know, are they creating, is there a selective breeding program going on?
I don't know about the selective breeding program. I will say this. These people are, because when it comes to human growth hormone and things like that, those are produced more in youth than they are in adults, which is one of the reasons why so many young brothers are murdered in the street and why so many young children are confiscated right out of the hospitals and put into so-called foster care institutions and put up for adoption and what have you. Now, eugenics, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. EU means good. EUR means pale, so don't get it twisted, okay? EU means good or well, and EUR means pale. So eugenics is another way of saying good genes, and let the European tell it their genes are good genes, but they know their genes are not good genes. That's why they keep coming after our genes. That's why they keep doing so many tests on our people. But they will actually invoke a test or trial right over Europeans also, because they don't care about Europeans that are not a part of the inbred in crowd of would-be so-called elites. If you are not a part of their in crowd, you may as well be, for lack of better words, what is called black to them, because you don't matter to them. What they were able to do with people like you is they were able to keep you inflamed and incited about melanin-rich people and have you always looking at melanin-rich people and watching them and keeping your foot on their neck so that you would not see what they were doing. It's like legerdemain or a magician's sleight of hand. Look over here at the right hand that I'm waving in front of you all the time, and the right hand may as well be melanin-rich so-called Negro, black, colored people who they're always waving in front of you all the time. And while you're looking over at them, you don't see what the left hand is doing over here. And over here, the left hand was doing like I've told people. These people have long vengeance memories, and they don't get over stuff. They never got over the Europeans that were dropped here in penal colonies for being criminal by nature, who had the nerves, many of them, to run off the colony and start hanging out with the melanin-rich people that were found here that are today called African Americans, that actually helped liberate them from under the thumb and yoke of these inbreds that were misruling over them, like King Henry's daughter, Bloody Mary, for example, and the Roman Catholic Church, that if you don't agree with what we're talking about, now this is Europe, has nothing to do with us, albeit they swear them down, we're their problem. You're in Europe. These inbred would-be elites are telling you how to look, how to dress, how to act, what you can read, can't read, what you can do, can't do, and a lot of this is going on even with Hamas people over in Israel. You know, they're being dictated to, especially the women, about what you can't, because these are people that are envious and jealous of melanin and envious and jealous of women. So if you disagreed or you protested, you were called a Protestant, you were called a heretic. What are some of the other words they were calling these people? Oh, God, I can't think of the word. There's another word besides heretic. But if, you were called witches, warlocks, devil worshippers, and anything else they could put on you so that they could boil you in oil, fillet you, split you to the four winds in the public square, impale you on poles, sodomize you with hot iron pipes that have been dipped in heat or burned and shoved up your rectum, which is very similar to what they did to a lot of the inmates in Guantanamo Bay. The United States was taking metal rods, dipping them in battery acid, and shoving them up these Islamic brothers' rectum and stuff. But they're not telling people what kind of sickness we're dealing with here. These people are really not saying. But what they did was they mistreated these people to the point that those that did not get deported here, that actually ran here of their own accord, because after all, they heard about all the great giveaways here. Talk about welfare. If you could get here, you got so many acres of land and you got so much of this and so much of that, and they were just handing it to you, they would run over here. But these Europeans of today have forgotten that when they got here, our people helped a lot of them get from under the thumb of these inbred nobles that were misruling and mistreating and abusing them. So what happened was these people never forgot. They are angry with them still to this day, especially the ones on the reservation who ran off to live with us the most, to the point that now they have strategically positioned themselves that they have infiltrated the government, because I don't even think half of what is going on is the government. I think there are people that have been elected that are really trying to do their job, but they're threatened with death and the whole 9 yards. These people have them by the balls too. They can only do so much because they are lorded over. But these individuals have strategically infiltrated the government. And treason is only a crime if it's, I can't think of the, overt. If it's overt, meaning you're doing it out in the open and it's public. Covert treason is not illegal. You have to do it overtly and have, I think, at least 3 witnesses to your covert act of treason in order for it to be a crime. But these royal families and these Jesuit militia have infiltrated the United States government that we helped the Europeans set up to liberate themselves from their oppressors. They turned on us at the behest of agents that were coercing them to do so, and they forgot who we are and what we did for them. And as a result of paying too much attention to us, they didn't pay enough attention to who they were and where they came from, to the point that the people they ran from are now strategically positioned in all high positions of power, or really close enough to high positions of power to actually do a treasonous overthrow of the government, and they are going to put their foot back on the neck of these Europeans that called themselves running away and getting away, and now they're going to take us down with them because they lost sight of the prize. And I hope I answered this person's question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Let's see. Someone else here. I'm going to open up a couple of lines here. 313-345. Do you have a question or a comment?
Yes, I do. Sister,
Okay.
I hope
Hi,
our
sweetie.
people will listen to you and take seriously what you say and not consider you paranoid or some type of crackpot. Now,
they do.
let's go back to when the European first came amongst the Africans. They
American.
couldn't understand how these sable people, black, could have such majestic civilizations and so forth, with glass, fine woven cloths, architecture, and so forth. Now, just as something as small, but that's how the bustle came about. They saw our sisters in Africa, so them flat-behind European women wanted to look like us. And even today, we see them putting collagen against thick lips.
Mm-hmm.
And also, during this same period of time, they would take the black skin of people, talking about cannibals. They called us a cannibal, but there's always a law of opposites. Usually what he says is the opposite. This is the truth.
That's right.
They would take that black skin and meat back to England or other European powers and eat it to try to gain what the African had.
That's absolutely right.
Now, there's a Tasmania named after Lord Tasman, an Englishman. What he would do is that he would kill the people, hang them up on piano wire, dry the flesh, and ship them back to England for meat. The last one they did, it was an elderly woman in her 90s. She begged them not to string her up on the piano wire. Well, he didn't do that, but he still cut the meat off and hung it up and ate it for that. Now, in addition to that, some of that comes by. If we take time to read what they write about themselves, when you are living during the Ice Age and you have nothing to do, women were not needed only for reproductive purposes. And all the males wanted was something warm beside them. And so, for example, the Christmas tree, and these are white authors that have written it historically. On the Christmas tree, we hang red and white balls on the Christmas tree, do we not?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That represents the heads of babies that they killed to put on the pine tree.
Wow, never heard that. Wow.
Well,
I believe you though.
I can get you information where you can learn this. Now, also, when you talk about about what it's a hidden government, and you see, well, I'm going to back up a bit. Now, this has been going on, say, from the time that they ate our meat to gain what we had, to gain that melanin. Now, actually, there's two types of melanin. Melanin, which you said is good, and phe melanin. Phe melanin, which the white folks has a higher copper content. Therefore, he turns red. So they have been, and you can go on a computer and bring up melanin. You'll see that I won't say every, but a whole lot of major scientific labs in the world are studying melanin and us in particular. Now, I might have missed some of your program, but if they make serotonin, which is released at night, where do they get the formula from? They have to get it from black folks because the white man is bereft of that. Now,
That's
also,
right.
as far as the women going to the hospitals to this day, they've been doing it for years. Tuskegee was a mild experimentation, but they've been taking the placenta of black women for years to study.
It has.
And also, you mentioned how the young males, they are paying in the systems now. They are paying our young men for their semen to make experimentation on. So this is real, but we don't. And our people who are in positions. I'm a no government agency of no guy, but these are people. We have people who know these things, medical, scientific, politicians, that know that these diabolical schemes are going on, and murmur not a word to us about it. And so, what is going on now is they know that you talk about right now. Have you ever heard of heritage seeds?
Yes, I have.
That means a seed is nature put it here that's evolved naturally over a period of time. Now they have the hybrids, which means it cannot reproduce itself.
That's right.
So
like them.
The European, exactly. The European has a negative birth rate. So what does he need to grow and increase his? He needs the heritage seed. And this is one of the reasons why you see is, I don't think it's out of love. There might be some altruism, but certainly not love and respect, that you have high-profile entertainers and otherwise, churches and so forth, adopting these young people from Africa, Asia, Haiti, and bringing them to rear them so that they will have their surrogates to carry out their program. That's all they know. That's what they know, that they're backed up. They know more than that, but they're used to that, so their first loyalty, or a large part of their loyalty, goes to the person that saved them and gave them a quote-unquote better life. So there are so many things going on right beneath us. And of course, we have people working in hospitals and so forth that see these things, but they want to keep their jobs. We can't blame them. So that's why we need people who, such as you, and others that can share information under strictest confidences and so forth to tell us what's going on. Now, there's a book, it's fiction, but it's true to form. It's called The Hochland Case, written by a petroleum engineer from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, some years ago, having to do with oil and how the Jesuit order, the Catholic Church, and other organizations function and what they do, and some of the things they do. Like you say, there's a network. If it were ever documented or somebody did it, the Jesuits probably have the greatest fifth column ever developed on the face of the earth, the fifth column being a person that lives out in the community and reports back to a central order and so forth. That's how it's become, and so it goes. And so that what you are telling our people, and I hope you'll tell them some places so that they can get it. Now, one source that you can, and it's either, I'll just give you a title. You can also get other references documented about the Tasmania. Well, Ranoko Rashidi and our late it escapes me. The early presence of Africans in Asia, all over the world, that is being done and has been done. And so we need to wake up, and they need us more than we need them.
You got that right, and I'm so tired of telling people that.
We
don't need them.
pride in ourselves, protect our women folk at the point of death if need be. We, within 10 to 15 years, and look inward and bring out the goodness that's within the creativities within us, the system as we know it today would crumble. Why? Because we would not embrace all the foolish things they bring into our community. They have a system set up now that they make the most profits. Your chain restaurants, other places, they make the most profits under places that have the lowest income. So
you got that right.
I applaud you. I hope you will continue, and we must take you seriously. And if you don't, I would throw this challenge out. Anyone that doesn't believe her, you should prove her wrong and bring her documented proof. So I thank you, sister.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your comments. It's interesting that he would say that because as he was talking about the Jesuits in the Roman Catholic Church and the people that are being paid, the brothers that are being paid for semen, there are brothers that are being paid to kill brothers because they need, now the brothers that are being paid may not know why. In other words, you may be a young brother in a gang, and you're following orders from brothers that are older than you. After all, you didn't have a father or other male-type role model or male figure, so frequently your male role models are your homies in the hood, in the gang, and the elders in the gang that you're looking up to that are dictating down to you what you need to do. Some of those brothers that are higher up are agents being paid to kill so many brothers, and maybe being told which brothers to kill because the system is aware of who's who because they've been shooting us up with child inoculations. Oh, by the way, make sure you bring your child's shot record and this, that, and the other, so they know what's going on, meaning O-type blood is universal blood. O-type donors can give blood to anybody. However, O-negative donors can give blood to anybody but can only take blood from other O-negative blood types. O-type blood people can give blood to anybody, O-positive, can give blood to anyone except O-negative people and can take blood from anyone. Melanin-rich people that are the autochthonous, aboriginal, indigenous people of the United States are the predominance of O-type blood on the planet. Now, there are melanin-less or melanin-deficient people that have O-positive and O-negative blood. But I would submit to you that they may not know, but if they go far enough up their genealogical tree, they will find that they are of the bloodline of autochtons that were found here, albeit they may be in the Ku Klux Klan, for all you know. But the fact is, they are technically, by blood, just another so-called nigger and don't know it. Now, the Pope and them he was talking about, a lot of people are not aware of the fact that there is getting ready, and it was brought to my attention by one of my listeners who lives in Canada. In September, they're going to have the first official visit from the Pope of Rome to the Queen of England since back in the King Henry and his Bloody Mary daughter's era. His daughter, Queen Mary, that they call Bloody Mary because of all the people she killed. And remember, he wanted to get a divorce and he wanted to remarry, and they wouldn't let him remarry who he wanted to remarry. So he was like, screw y'all, I'll set up my own church and whatever. And that's kind of what they've been running, albeit that his daughter was a Catholic, he was a Catholic. But he had set up his own church. So I'm saying that to say something is going down. If the Europeans at this time feel like the Pope of Rome needs to make an official, now this ain't the first visit to England, but an official visit to the Queen of England, if they're trying to reunify, there is a reason for that, and my people need to pay attention to that while they're watching all these other distractions. Now, there's something I wanted to touch on in connection to what he said, but before I get into it, because it's going to be a little bit more drawn out, I want to make sure that there wasn't someone else waiting in the wings with a question.
Okay, well, we're at the top of the hour, and I just want to take a minute and a half or a 2-minute break so we can get some water, okay?
Go ahead, sweetie.
All right. Welcome back to the Truth to Power show, and my name is Beverly D., and you're listening to Dr. Yahshua Bey. Dr. Yahshua Bey, we're back.
Okay, now, he was saying earlier about the brothers that are paid for their genetics or CTA, DNA, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to submit to you that while there are brothers that are higher up in these gangs that are being directed by European masters to telling them what to do and who to kill, while they tell the little youngsters that are just trying to get jumped in or whatever who to kill and what to do. A lot of these people that look like us are not us. But before I get into that, I'm going to say this. I sent out a YouTube, I sent out an article that someone forwarded to me about some European cat that had committed a string of robberies. And he was in one of these Hollywood high-tech masks, and he looked just like a brother. You wouldn't, meaning there are people that can walk around amongst us and be in our midst looking just like us, and they are not us at all. Some of them are other people in Hollywood-type costume makeup doing these things. Also, I have a C-star. You guys say sister. I have a C-star that is ex-sheriff deputy. And she herself told me one day, she said, you know, Yahshua, I was trained to shoot. She said, and I'm going to tell you this. Based on what I know with my law enforcement background, I am inclined to tell you that most of these drive-by shootings are not done by brothers in the hood. Because if you know anything about shooting and you have had any kind of shooting training, you are fully aware that it is very difficult to hit a moving target. And if you're moving and your target is moving, without training, it's almost impossible. That's why you know when these young brothers are doing the shooting, because they're hitting stray children and everybody else that they're not aiming at. When you have somebody in a car that's moving, shooting at somebody that's also moving, especially if they're running, that happens to hit the target, that is someone that is trained to shoot. A lot of these brothers do not have training in shooting. Some of them, their guns are not even legally registered. And a lot of them haven't set foot in a gun range to even practice that shooting. So what she's saying to me is a lot of these drive-by shootings are not being committed by the people that are being blamed for them, that most probably these drive-by shootings are being committed by law enforcement. That's one. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and everybody that thought I was crazy before, you're really going to think I'm crazy now. But I got to bring this up just because folks need to know. You can take it or leave it, but I got to give it to you like I got it. I was talking to a young lady on my block one day who had the most beautiful baby pit bull I had ever seen. And when I say baby pit bull, the first time I told this story to a sister of mine or C-star of mine, she thought I was talking about a puppy. No, this was not a puppy. The back of this pit bull was at my knee. I'm approximately 5 feet tall, 5 feet 6 inches tall. This pit bull stood as high, the top of the back of this dog was at my kneecap, which means the dog's head was above my kneecap. But he was still a puppy. Now, I don't do dogs, cats, pets. I'm not into animals. But this was the most beautiful dog I had ever seen in my life. And I was talking to this sister, and I'm like, dang, what do you do with this dog? He looked to me like she had gone to a Home Depot or some other type of hardware store and bought a can of shellac and just painted his ass with clear paint. That's how pristine this dog looked. And she said, well, I feed him right and I brush him a lot. Now, I'm standing on the curb talking to this sister. What looked like a sister came up the street pushing a shopping cart apparently homeless, collecting cans or God only knows what was in the shopping cart. However, I'm standing on the street, in the tar, talking to the sister who was standing on the sidewalk on the concrete in Los Angeles. This woman walks up to us, and she's approximately half a block away from where we were standing. And I see her out of the corner of my eye, and this dog, I don't know why this dog liked me so much, but this dog, he didn't jump up on me, but he kept brushing up on my legs. I don't know if you've ever seen a cat, how a cat will keep rubbing up against somebody's leg and walking through someone's legs, rubbing on the person. This dog was rubbing all on me like I was some kind of, like he was some kind of cat. And the dog's name is Baby. That's what she calls the dog, Baby. But I heard this lady out of the corner of my eye saying, "Oh, what a pretty dog." And I looked at her, and I kept talking to the sister and playing with the dog, and the sister looked at her, and before we knew it, the lady was getting closer to us. All of a sudden, the dog stopped and stood at attention and looked at this sister, who had to be still at least 5 car lengths away. But by the time she got within 3 car lengths of us, this dog started backing up onto the sidewalk. Because remember, I was in the street. The dog is out in the street with me. The dog started backing up onto the sidewalk. Now, this is a pit bull, okay? I don't know what the deal was, but from the sidewalk to this sister's porch, where her door was on the porch, was at least 2 car lengths long, because in her driveway you can park 2 cars, and her door was that far back. The closer this woman got to us, the more the dog backed up. Now, I have never seen anything like this in my life other than in science fiction movies.
Right.
This dog did not bark at the woman. This dog did not growl at the woman. This dog did not whimper in fear of the woman. But the dog kept an intelligible distance away from this woman. As she got closer, the dog took more steps back. And I'm looking at the dog, and the sister's looking at her dog like, what the hell? And this sister, now, by the time this sister got to where we were standing, and I watched the dog do this, he had walked backwards from the sidewalk 2 lengths up the walkway to his porch and backed up the porch. He didn't turn around and walk up the stairs front way. This dog backed up the porch and stood on its porch and watched her from at least a 2 car length distance. And I'm saying that to say, I don't know what this sister, she looked like a sister. She was heavily melanin rich, very dark. But whatever she was, I don't think she was real. I don't think she was, for lack of better words, people. I'm going to give you another example. My son was walking down the street one day, and all of a sudden, this little straggly, now on the bus stop bench, a few feet in front of him, about a half a block away, was what appeared to be a homeless brother. This little stray, scraggly-looking dog came, trotting along, walking in the same direction that my son was walking in, came up from behind him, passed him up. Now, this is after the incident with this knee-high pit bull named Baby.
Right.
This little scraggly thing, he's just moseying along and minding his own business, and he gets about a car length away from where this brother was sitting on the park bench. And my son said, "Mama, I ain't never seen no shit like this." He said this dog stopped, looked at the dude, ran around in circles a couple of times, bounded out in the street, bounded back onto the sidewalk, ran around in circles again, and then turned and headed tail in the opposite direction from where he and my son were walking. And the whole time he kept looking back over his shoulder like, "Please tell me this dude ain't coming after me. Please tell me this dude ain't coming after me." And my son was like, "I don't know what that dude was, but it's almost like something about his presence short-circuited this dog." Now,
well, someone in the chat room was saying maybe it could have been a hologram.
That's possible. Like I said, whatever it is, these are not people. They look like people, but they're not people. And if they are people, I don't know what type of critter they may be. Now, my sister, the sheriff deputy that I was telling you about, she's a cat lover. She's got cats. She had, I think, at one point 3 or 4 cats. Now, I'm not sure if she only had 1 cat when this happened or if she had 3 cats when this happened. But either way, it was late at night, and some homeless people were coming down the street with shopping carts. Now, this has happened many times before. People coming down the street with shopping carts to collect cans and go through the garbage or whatever. No big deal. But this particular instance, nothing was in her trash can but kitty litter and cat shit. Kitty litter with cat shit. Whatever was going on, when these people came down the street, her cat went into a short circuit type of mode, kind of like what my son is talking about, and then did a mad dash. Now, these people are outside, past the grass, past the sidewalk, and the second batch of grass, and in the street where the garbage cans are. But something about one or both of these people upset her cat so much that her cat short-circuited and hightailed it to the back of the house and ran and hid up under the bed. And there was nothing in the trash can but kitty litter and cat doo-doo. And I'm saying all this to say to you guys, no matter how crazy I'm sounding to you right now, there are people out there that look like us and they're not us. Not only do they look like us, I'm starting to think that they're not even people. And I'm saying to you, be on the lookout for these people. I don't know if they're reptilians. I don't know if they're shapeshifters. I don't know if they're clones or genetic modifications or manipulations. I don't know if they're holograms. I don't know what they are, but they look like you and they're not you, just like this European dude that was committing all these armed bank robberies, looking just like a brother and had the police looking for a brother, and he was a a so-called white boy in full-fledged Hollywood-style makeup like Eddie Murphy does when he's playing alternative roles. He looked like a brother for all intent and purposes.
Well, Dr. Yahshua, I want to open up the lines that people want to ask you some questions here. I have a caller from area code 202. Do you have a question or comment? Area code 202? Okay, let's try area code 313259. Do you have a question or comment?
Yes. How you doing, Yahshua?
I'm marvelous, C-Star. How are you doing today, sweetie?
I'm fine, thank you. How you doing, Beverly?
Good.
And to everybody else. What I wanted to comment on was when you spoke about the young boys. I remember the Atlanta murders, and Dick Gregory was saying that when the parents finally saw these young boys, that their bodies was drawn up just like a dried-up apple. And so some chemicals had been taken from these young boys. And the mother had at least 2 or 3 months before they could even see their children. The other thing, when you spoke about the Katrina and the killing of our people, recently I heard that the Justice Department arrested 6 or 7 National Guardsmen that was in Katrina that had killed black men and black people and had covered it up.
It was more than 6 or 7. I'm familiar with those 6, too.
Oh, okay. I heard that. And I thought that was quite interesting in reference to this so-called, the oil spill down in Louisiana. And all these caucasoids are losing their minds, and now they need psychiatrists because they do not have a job. And I'm saying, but I just, it was interesting relating it to when you say how they were killing up black people. And I'd heard this before. I think Bobby Hemmett, on a CD, he talked about, and there was a project in Atlanta, and how so many black people were missing that lived in this projects. And like you were saying, they had no contact with anybody. And once they were taken shipped to a different place, nobody knew. And there was also an incident here some years back where the young boys that was in these correction facilities were being shipped out of the state of Michigan, and their parents could not even find out where they were when they went to check on them. So this is very real what you're saying about all of this here insanity that's going on. The other thing is interesting when the so-called Queen of England, for the first time this year in 33 years, she went to Wimbledon, the tennis tournament. And it was quite interesting that she came to the United Nations, I think, last week, and she had not been there in 53 years. So when you say the Pope is coming, I feel there's something coming up here that is going to be quite phenomenal about black people. Now
that's why my people better wake up. So go ahead.
That's my feeling. It's something that's going to be a rude awakening. That's what I think. Nice talking to you.
Excellent. Talking to you again too, C-Star. You be safe and secure out there, and stay aware, stay awake.
Area code 779. Area code 779. Area code 216. Area code 216. Do you have a question or comment? Okay, Dr. Yahshua Bey.
Okay, now let me tell you about this new thing that I was telling you guys about earlier, this Melanotan thing. This is supposed to be going to be the big kahuna if they're able to get it approved. They expect it to be a billion-dollar industry that's going to put the tanning bed industry out of business. Now, Melanotan is such that, as I was saying earlier, you have to get an injection of this so-called synthetic melanin into your abdominal region. Now, you shoot this liquid sun, or whatever they want to call it, into your abdomen every day for 10 days. Now, in 10 days, if you are the color that you want to be, then you only have to shoot yourself up once a week after that. If, however, in 10 days you are not as dark as you want to be, you continue to shoot yourself up every day until you're the color you want to be. Now, this stuff is supposed to make you darker and darker and darker, and it makes you dark all over without the panty lines and the bra lines that you get from these other types of tan. And certain areas of your body get darker than others. Now, even though they didn't say what areas those were, I'm not stupid. I'm like, okay, so now you're telling us that your genitals are getting darker, because that's kind of standard with melanin. Now, according to them, the only side effects of Melanotan 2, which is different from Melanotan 1, the only side effects of Melanotan 2 are a decrease in appetite, which means you're going to lose weight, and an increase in sex drive. Those are the only two side effects that they're claiming that this stuff has. Now, in the UK, as I said, you can buy this stuff on the Internet, you can buy it online, and you can shoot yourself up with it. However, in the United States, the FDA is saying if, in fact, it is approved, it is going to be something that you're going to have to go and have administered by a physician. So if you're going to be having millions or billions of people around the world shooting themselves up with synthetic melanin on a daily basis, some of them on a weekly basis, where are you going to acquire enough melanin to keep that kind of industry going? I don't know how many people have seen, what's the name of this movie? Dang it had Keanu Reeves in it, and, oh, Lord, Morpheus was in this movie. What was the name of this movie?
Matrix?
Yeah, The Matrix. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't know how many people have seen The Matrix and how they had people suspended in animation in these water, suspended water tubes, water tubs, where they had people in so they could bleed these people dry and utilize these people in a suspended animation state. But I'll submit to you, if my people don't wake up And I mean real fast and quick. Oh, we're all the same. We're all the same. We're not all the same. There are melanin-rich people that you think are your people. They're not your people. There are pale-skinned people that you think are the enemy that are not the enemy. And it's going to be hard to try and delineate who's who. And I'm going to say, when it comes to melanin-deficient, pale-skinned people that are not the enemy, they almost need to walk around with a sign going, not me, not me, I'm not one of them, because we have enough to deal with just trying to figure out who that looks like us can't be trusted. We're not trying to figure out who that looks like you can be trusted. So they need to jump up and down and make themselves real known. You know what I'm saying? Even then, our people have been prone to not trust pale-skinned people. But I'm saying that to say, if we're not aware of what's going on, when they say gangbangers are terrorists, Moorish Americans, which means any dark-skinned person or any dark-skinned American, is a terrorist. And once you're a terrorist, we can lock you up and not tell you why, not charge you with anything, not notify your parents or your relatives or your spouse or your children that you're locked up or why you've been locked up. You cannot make a phone call. You cannot confer with an attorney. You will not get a speedy trial. You may not get any trial. And if you know how many experiments have been done on veterans of the so-called military as well as inmates of these so-called prisons, some that are melanin-rich and some that are not melanin-rich, but especially those that are melanin-rich, I see them setting us up for the absconding and disappearance of my people who they can put in a suspended animation and bleed them year after year after year after year, and they're just missing in action. And you have these posters out talking about, have you seen me? And they're just missing in action while they are being bled for what these people need from them because they were too stupid to get their own melanin the official way by grafting back into the family of man because they wanted to stay mankind. You know what I'm trying to say?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because these people, it is not beyond them to do that. I'm telling you what they're doing to your relatives in these funeral homes, and you don't know about it. When you're standing there looking at these people, why are their eyelids sewn shut? Now, they'll give you a whole half a dozen reasons why they're sewn up here and things are missing there. They'll give you a bunch of reasons why they need to do coroner reports and autopsies. You have a young man that was shot down dead in the street, and they want to do an autopsy to determine the cause of death. Well, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to me that it's painfully evident that the cause of death is that he was shot down in the street and bled to death or whatever the case may be. But for whatever reason, you tell the family you need the coroner's report, and, oh, we'll let you know after we do the autopsy. What you mean is you'll let us know after you steal everything that you want to steal from this body that you're going to hold on to while it is pending coroner investigation. And really, it's all about you stealing the person blind of that which you need, which you didn't have to steal ours. You could have became melanin rich yourself. How many 100 years did they have to get grafted back in? But they chose not to become a real boy. They wanted to stay Pinocchio, a little wooden-nosed liar. You know what I'm trying to say? So if we are not aware of what's going on, our people are going to find themselves in some suspended, and there's another movie that came out recently. I think it's called Daybreakers.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody's ever seen this movie. There's a movie called Daybreakers, and it's about these and this movie is dropping it for people that know how to see and hear what they're watching. It's about so-called vampires who are feeding off of human beings who they have suspended in these water suspension tanks like I'm talking about, feeding off of their essence and drinking off of their blood because they're dying off. And as a result of them dying off, in order for them to stay alive and to stay halfway sane, they have to kill off human beings and drink their blood. But when they start having blood shortages, and I'm going to call them melanin shortages, when they start having these shortages, they start to lose their sanity. and they start to feed on themselves, meaning drinking their own blood, and that poisons them, and then they become a real crazy critter. Now, these entities start feeding off of the vampires that are feeding off of the humans. So the humans are at the bottom of the list, or the bottom of the feeding chain. The vampires who were at the top of the feeding chain find themselves becoming at the bottom because humans are disappearing because they're using up the blood supply, and these other vampires are feeding off of the vampires now. And there's a phrase in this movie where this one guy that used to be a vampire, and he stopped being a vampire. How? He was thrown through the fire, okay? He had to go through the fire and get burned, going back to getting melanin rich, drop into the water of the melanin matrix, and come out of darkness and re-emerge from a dark, open cavity that may as well have been a melanin-rich womb, and then emerge out into the sunlight again, a daywalker. I've told people before about these daywalkers versus these non-daywalkers. Now, he can walk, and he has turned back human. And he has found the cure for vampires to not have to be vampires. And they get a hold of a vampire that doesn't like being a vampire. Actually, several vampires don't want to be vampires, that want to try to save the so-called human race and help them become man again. So they come up with a cure, but these so-called elites don't want a cure. All they want is to stay in power and in control, because like they said, it ain't about a cure. It's never been about a cure. It's always been about control and repeat business. It's all about business. And that's why I'm saying these people don't care about melanin-rich people, and they don't care about so-called white people either. If you're not high up enough on that would-be elite chain, you're just another nigga to them. Mm-hmm. But as long as they don't let you know that and they make you think, oh, you're white, so you're better. Well, I may not be nothing in Europe, but I'm better than you in America because at least I'm white. You're so busy watching what you think is the enemy that you don't even see your enemy. Y'all need to go see that movie, Daybreakers, because it's dropping it. It is dropping it. And this guy says, after he had become human, he said, vampires think that they own the whole world and that humans need to run from them. But that's not true. He said, and I'm just kind of rephrasing because I can't quote it exactly, but he said something like, that's not true. The truth is like the sun. Every day it comes out. He said, and you can hide from the sun as long as you want to, but it's just like the truth. Sooner or later, it's going to come forward. In other words, these people that think they own the whole world, they don't own the whole world. They just think they do because they have people buying into the lies about what the world is about. Y'all need to go watch that. If you haven't seen Daybreakers, if you know how to decode, watch it. If you don't know how to decode, don't waste your time. Like they said, rising from the ashes.
Dr. Abe, I'm going to open up another line here.
Uh-huh.
Area code 313-273. Do you have a question or comment? Area code 313-273. Okay, let me go to the next one here. Hello? Okay. 779. Do you have a question or comment? Okay, go ahead, Doc.
But
that movie Daybreakers is deep. That movie Daybreakers is really deep because they show in that movie these people that are in these suspended animation bubbles that I'm talking about, just like in the Matrix, and people are feeding off of them. I think you have a caller. I heard somebody else's voice besides yours and mine.
Caller, are you there?
779?
Yes.
Yes, I was also thinking about the movie V.
The movie V?
I've never seen it.
Victory. It's an older movie, and it was like some aliens that were in a body, and they had made. I'm looking at how there's the neighborhoods. There's nobody outside anymore after a certain hour. It's just so quiet.
everybody's scared and in their house. And in that movie V, they had people go inside their houses at a certain hour. They had total control over the neighborhood.
Well, we're not far from that. That's just a whole other way of saying martial law, which, we've been under that for a long time, but it's not enforced. It's not visible yet. They're trying to make it visible by attempting to incite melanin-rich people to protest. See, everyone else can protest, like the Ku Klux Klan can rally, and law enforcement comes out and protects them. And the last time I checked, they're definitely a domestic terrorist threat. But law enforcement protects them when they come out and rally. Law enforcement actually protects these European or descendants of Spanish conquistadors called illegal immigrants that come south of the border, because the ones that are really original Mexicans look like African Americans, technically. They're just south of the border speaking Spanish. But a lot of these people that are on this side of the border, when they protest for the right to be illegal, law enforcement protects them. If we decide we want to protest, well, law enforcement is out there, in riot gear trying to figure out how to shut us up, suppress us, hose us down, stick dogs on us, beat us with billy clubs, shoot us dead, and the whole 9 yards. And this is our house.
Now, someone had asked earlier, how do we keep our melanin or get our melanin back, since everybody is ripping off for it?
Well, once they take it out, far be it from me to tell you how to take it back, you know what I'm saying? Because half the time they done put it in a pill and it's on a shelf in some capsule. I told you they have melanin sunglass lenses, melanin contact lenses, melanin tea, melatonin tablets, and now they got Melanotan. So I don't know how you can go get that stuff back. It's on the shelves in a lot of these stores. I don't think you want to go buy it. I don't think you want to go steal it. But what you can do for your melanin in order to try to increase it, for whatever reason, your body produces most of its melanin at around midnight. Even if you're a night owl, if you can be in a quickening or so-called sleep state from like 11 o'clock at night to 1 o'clock in the morning, that'll be good for you as far as increasing your melanin production. If for some reason, however, you cannot be asleep at those hours or in your quickening state, because I don't like sleep, sleep means dead. If you can be in your quickening state at those hours, if you cannot be, in that state at those hours because you work a graveyard shift or a night shift or whatever the deal is, you're on your way to work or whatever the doohickey is, then you need to increase your consumption of leafy green raw food. That would help you re-emit your melanin. Now, if you can find heavily melanin-rich people that are not stuck on such massive self-hatred that they're all out of the race as far as who they're willing to hook up with and have babies with, then you can try to get with someone melanin-rich and have melanin-rich children and let them know the power of being melanin-rich so that they're also chasing some of the darkest melanin they can get their hands on as far as recreating and repopulating themselves and their gene strain.
Now, someone is saying chlorophyll helps to increase melanin.
Well, chlorophyll most certainly does. That is the planet's melanin. I've said in a lecture before, the most powerful melanin on the earth is the melanin that melanin-rich people contain and the melanin that is in plants called chlorophyll. That's that type of melanin. That's why I was saying if you cannot be down in a quickening state at around midnight from 11 to 1 at night or from 10 at night to 2 in the morning, or, even if you go down from 11:30 to 12:30, if you can take a nap 1 hour, that's good for you. But if you cannot, that's the reason why you would want to eat the raw leafy greens. That will give you that, as this individual is saying, melanin from the plant, which is in the form of chlorophyll, which is really the same thing, just Mother Nature doing what Mother Nature does. Just like plants take in toxins and remodify and then re-emit them as pure oxygen. Melanin does the same thing. It takes in all types of resonances, which other people call frequencies, and I prefer resonance, and it transmutes and transmogrifies that and then re-emits that as something that resonates more appropriately in nature.
Mm-hmm. Very good, very good. So what we need to do is we need to be aware of what's going on so people can't get our melanin.
Now, one of the things we can do so that the people can't get our melanin, that's a good point. Now, you know how a lot of our people just don't seem to be able to come across no jobs. They just don't seem to be happening. And I don't know why so-called, well, I do know why, but what so-called white folks do just doesn't make any sense to me, because I'm going to say it like this. If you're dealing with what you call poor people, who many of which cannot afford these full-fledged funerals that they'd like to have, and then you say, well, you know, if you like, cremation is less expensive. If a person goes, well, how much is that? Maybe we'll do that. Depending on where you are, it's on average $3,000 to $6,000, even though you every now and then can find a $2,000 deal, and once in a rare moon you can find a $500 or $600 deal. If you go, well, I still can't afford that, rather than these people stealing your melanin and stealing your body parts, do you know how many melanin-rich people will give them the bodies of the loved ones if they say, well, in the alternative, if you'd be willing to donate the body to science, if you want to sign off on this paperwork, we can have the body disposed in such a fashion that it's donated to science and it won't cost you anything. A lot of our people will go, okay. You don't have to steal it. Now, for those that are resistant and still say no and show reluctance, you can always say, well, what if we give you $500 for the body? Or what if we give you $1,000 for the body? Well, those that said no will soon be saying yes, especially in this economy. You want to give me $1,000 for my dead loved one and I don't have to pay for the funeral? Are you sure? What are the strings that are attached? No strings. We'll donate the body to science, and this will help you with your grieving process. A lot of our people will sign the paper faster than you can hand them the pen. So you don't have to steal the melanin or the body parts or the organs from these people. Give them the dang option. That's what's wrong with so-called white folks. They don't think beyond their noses. You know what I'm saying? It's like, right. What is wrong with your mind that you don't think that people would be okay with this? However, what our people can do.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I remember what I'm going to say.
Also saying that some about people can come up with some kind of, they can come up where they can monitor the bodies or something along those lines and create a new form of work.
Well, that's what I was getting ready to say next. Another thing that can be done for those individuals that did not know that when they're at the funeral, at the church looking at the dead body, that half of what goes in there and belongs in there is already gone and stolen, and that even the bones are gone most of the time. They don't know that, or that when they get their cremated remains back, that this is usually not even their loved one at all in the urn. What our people need to know is this. Melanin-rich people are employment starved, in my opinion. The body and organ business is such an easy business to get into, and such an at least at this time, it's a relatively unregulated industry. Now, I'm not telling anybody to go start killing my people, because we got enough going on already. We don't need all the extra. But I am saying you can get into the business, which used to be easy to get into, but they complicated and made it harder to get into it because there's so much money involved. And the death industry is run predominantly by Nazis that call themselves Jews. Difference between a Jew and a Nazi claiming to be one. But if you know melanin-rich people that are in the mortuary business, have their own mortuary, if you can get them to be willing to teach you the industry or the business, or if you can possibly become what they call a pre-need counselor. A pre-need counselor is someone that actually sells death strategy to the living. Now, they don't want to see you coming. They don't want to hear about, I'm not talking about dying. I'm not trying to hear about dying. I don't want to talk about death. You're trying to wish something on me. if you're at the door trying to sell them a grave site or a casket or even a cremation policy, so that in the event that they die unexpectedly, their family doesn't have to go broke trying to bury them or burn them. Now, there are some people, especially people that are older, or people that have already lost youngsters, because I've lost 2 sons in street rivalries or gangland shootings or drive-bys or whatever the deal is. And therefore, I know that the young can die before me. So I need to set some things up because I still have 4 other sons left, or whatever the deal is. And I realize that any of us can die at any time. You can go into the industry of selling grave sites, which is really real estate, buying the land to bury the person, and God knows that a lot of people ain't even getting in these sites. Or you can sell coffins, you can sell cremation. Or if you have somebody in the business, while you're selling these things, and people say what they can't afford and what they don't want to do, it's like, are you willing to agree to sign off on some paperwork and donate the body to science? You know, you can even go so far as to try and have it specified where the body goes to. Well, I want this body donated to Yale University or Harvard University or whatever these historically black colleges are. Because I'm sure they're at the bottom of the Get a Body list if there is a list. So I'm saying that to say, anybody that has a deep freezer, according to this industry, they're claiming that anybody that has a deep freezer that can stomach dead bodies and dead parts can get into the brokerage business of body parts very easily, especially if you can work in conjunction with a mortuary, a mortician, or some other science. Now, I'm going to say this to melanin-rich people. Don't do like so-called white folks and get illegal and get to killing people and get crazy, because we always suffer faster first for doing the same illegal type behavior that they do. So with us, it should all be about above board. Get permission from people. Get it in writing. They will give it to you. And if they don't want to give it to you, donate the body for free, offer them $500. If that ain't enough, offer them $1,000. If the least you can get for their body is $6,000, it won't kill you to give somebody $1,000 for their dead relative. And a lot of them will probably give the bodies over. So people can go to school to get into the mortuary business or the mortician's business or get into the whole pre-need grief counseling business, because it's big business. And no matter what is going on in the economy, I don't care how many closures of state offices and DMV offices, and you're going from $25 to minimum wage because the economy is going down and things are getting bad, people are always going to die. But what the so-called white folks don't know is you don't have to kill our people, and you don't have to steal our people. 1, you could have got your own melanin by grafting in. 2, you can still get bodies and body parts. Just ask.
I'm going to open up another phone line. Area code 310. Do you have a question or a comment?
No, I'm not familiar with the station.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Area code 313-273. Are you there? Okay, go ahead, Dr. Yahshua.
Yeah, all I want my people to understand is there's big business in death. And if they are telling you that on the cheap end, the cheapest a dead body is worth is $6,000, well, you can probably double that or raise that up 10 times as much. You know what I mean? Because they have a tendency to lowball when they're talking. Just like if they say, oh, you know, and during the Hurricane Katrina, there was 1,500 deaths. Well, you can at least double that, because they're only going to tell you the lowball number. They don't want to tell you the real number. So if they say a dead body is worth $6,000, I'd say it's worth a minimum of $12,000, especially ours. And my C-star lady mine will say, shit, that's some bull, Yahshua. That means it's worth 10 times as much at $60,000. On the high end, the body is worth $250,000, so they claim, which means it's more than that.
What makes a body a high-end body?
Personally, I think it's things like melanin richness. I think it's things like being O-negative blood. I think it's things like being O, any type of blood type O blood. I think it's about being a healthy specimen. Remember, a lot of Europeans especially males, and females for that matter too, have to go out and join gyms and 24-hour fitness and work out and take steroids and the whole 9 yards and, to get the body of a brother. They have to get, dick pumps and Viagra, stick-em-up pills and whatever to get a phallus or a penis that does even a fraction of what the brother has. You see one that's hanging to their knees, they've done something to get that thing like that. Brothers have a tendency to be that by nature without having to do really anything. They don't have to do a whole lot of working out. If a brother's working out, now you're looking at a Tookie Williams type of body. If a brother's not working out, he has a tendency to be, you see the definition in his body by nature, especially these young warriors that are in these so-called gangs. You know what I'm saying? So these bodies of our young male warriors are worth a lot. One, they ain't no cannibals. Two, they haven't been to Europe, so their blood is good. Three, they have this melanin richness that you can get out of the pineals and pituitary. Now, who in the world would be calling me at this hour, knowing that I'm doing an interview? Their pineals and their pituitary glands and all of these great things that you can get from them. To me, that is what makes their body parts worth more than anybody else's. Hold on 1 second.
And you're listening to the Truth to Power show. My name is Beverly D., and today we have on Dr. Yahshua Bey, and she's giving you something to think about as far as the funeral business.
Sorry me putting you guys on hold. I had to take that call. That was my only son.
Okay. Well, we have about 10 minutes left.
I know.
Okay.
I know. But, they were asking what makes a body worth more. If they also can get the body parts and organs out of a body within 24 hours of the death, that's worth more. Now, remember, back in the day, they would shoot down. A brother might get shot down in the street, or even a young Mexican brother would get shot down in the street. They may be left laying in the street for hours and hours, waiting on the coroner to show up. Well, recently, brothers are getting shot down in the street, and the police and the ambulances aren't coming as fast as they should, but they're coming fast enough that they leave the body there long enough that everybody, for all intents and purposes, all the witnesses are like, oh, they just let so-and-so lay there until he died. A lot of times what they're doing is they're letting so-and-so lay there until they slip into a semi-coma. That's why a lot of the bodies are being picked up and carried off, not in zip-up body bags and not waiting for a coroner to come out and check out whatever the scene is, but they'll put the body in an ambulance, throw the body on air or whatever, and keep the body long enough, depending on where the person was shot, to extract the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidney, the spleen, things that people that are waiting on what do you call organ donation lists can steal. We haven't signed these DMV cards saying we agree to donate, and yet they're getting the parts anyway.
And I also heard something that you shouldn't touch a body for 72 hours because it could come back. After 72 hours, then you know that the person is really gone.
That's accurate, but they don't want us to come back. They'll have the body there long enough so they can take out what they need to get because they are deficient. And they want what they should have gotten by nature when we were giving it away freely. We know a lot of people that have crossed the racial divide to make children with other races of people, creating a third race. But those individuals, although they are classified still black, as well as you got one drop of what you call black blood that makes you whatever they're calling black, and we know black means pale, but I know they're talking about us when they say it. You know what I'm saying? Again, all those individuals had to do was keep getting darker.
Dr. Yahshua Bey,
I'm here.
What did you say again? What the word black means?
Black means pale. It means bleached up, pale, wan, W-A-N, or white in color. That's the original definition. And I say the original definition is the current definition. That's why in that movie they were talking about the Matrix, and they were calling Neo calling somebody Copper Top. I think they were talking to Neo. They called him Copper Top. Well, I know the caller earlier was talking about copper, but copper coloring is what so-called African Americans are. You get you a United States Indian head penny and put it on the brown skin side of you. Truth of the matter is, if you take a modern day penny, which is made of zinc but still copper colored, and put it on the brown skin side of you, copper coloring is you. The original definition of the word American was the copper-colored races that the Europeans found here. That's originally what American meant. I submit to you that's still what American meant. When they started calling original autochthonous Americans American Red Indians, the research proves that the American Red Indians, which is not the same as the New Day American Indian, American Red Indians were called red because of the coppery coloring of their skin. The only people in America that have coppery coloring are the people that, for whatever reason, they have been led to believe that they were dragged here from Africa, when in fact, you are the children of the people the Europeans found here. And there were multiple races and different factions of us up and down the Americas and on America's surrounding islands that were originally called Americans of Ta Mary. Ta Mary, America, going back to Horace Butler. He said brothers and sisters named America, it was called Ta Mary. Then they started calling it America, started calling it America, and American means copper colored. So our people are Americans, whereas black originally meant bleached up and pale in color. And I say it originally meant that, it still means that. Now, a lot of people say things like, oh, this word in Egyptian meant black, and this word, and I submit that my people need to be very, very cognizant of these words that they're utilizing and applying to us, because just because you say that this Egyptian word or this Amharic word or this Arabic word translates in English to mean black, that does not mean for a second that it translates into English to mean black. It may translate into English to mean what is currently classified as black, but most likely it meant dark or per se, in color. People just need to get it clear. I don't think it meant black. I think it meant dark. Because most probably, way back in those days, people knew that the word black meant pale and white. So it couldn't have meant that. What they should say is it means what people classify black today. But don't say this original word in Egyptian meant black, because you weren't there and you don't know that. Just because the European tells you that that's what it translates to into in English doesn't mean that that's really what it translates to in English. It may translate to fuscus or Percy or darkish in complexion. Don't mean it meant black, because black means white.
Interesting. That's why it's very important that we understand the words that we say and the English that we speak. Now, Dr. Yahweh, can you give the people where they can reach you at?
Yeah, they can telephone me at 213-928-6155. That is my Magic Jack number. If I do not answer, leave a message, and I will return your call. If you are a T-Mobile customer, you might want to say that, because I know that means the call is free for me. If you're not T-Mobile, then I won't be returning your call until the weekend, when it is free for me to return your call, because I usually call on my cell phone. But they can call 213-928-6155, or they can send an email to Yahweh, Y-A-F, like Friday, another F-A-B-E-Y, at access4less.net, which is spelled A-C-C-E-S-S, the numeral 4, L-E-S-S.net. Yahweh at access4less.net. Or if you go to yahweh.com and you put a question in the frequently asked questions section, then I can respond to you. But don't wait for me on Facebook and Twitter and all these other places, because it's not going to happen. Yahweh, don't participate.
Okay.
I'm not a member.
All right. Great. Well, thank you again, Dr. Yahshua Bey,
You're
for
very
giving
welcome.
us this information. You know.
Yeah, look into it.
Yes.
Look for this thing called how much. You know, my sister Key sent it to me. How much is your dead body worth? That's on YouTube, I think. There's articles out there about
worth.
How much is your dead body worth? Check that out. It's approximately 58 minutes long.
Okay, will do. And I want to thank you again for giving us this information, and thanks for coming on.
You're very welcome.